Question: in response to those who say, nature does everything, what do they actually mean by nature? How can we prove and explain to them, rationally, that nature does not do or create anything? Answer: they say things like, nature created it, it happened naturally, and nowadays they slightly change the wording and say, nature did it, nature made it, or, the laws of nature. Let me state it plainly in one sentence. No matter how they phrase it, these statements are the words of unbelief. If a believer says them unknowingly, although it is dangerous, he may not become a disbeliever. However, in terms of their origin, these words are words of disbelief. Because Allah is the one who created nature, and Allah is also the one who created the laws within nature. Essentially, without understanding the matter, people blindly repeat the word nature and nothing more. It is our right to ask those who say nature what they actually mean by nature. If something occurs outside the normal order, it is called unnatural, that is, extraordinary, a miracle, a wonder, a saintly miracle, magic, soothsaying, and so on. In other words, something outside what is natural, for example, water flowing downward, stones falling to the ground due to gravity, more precisely, falling into their spatial position, water evaporating and rising upward, then turning into droplets in the atmosphere, and rain falling back down again due to gravity, we call all of these nature. But if raindrops were to rise upward, or clouds were to suddenly fall down without rain, we would call these things unnatural. This is one meaning of how we understand nature. Now, when we examine these matters one by one through investigation and analysis, it becomes extremely difficult to claim that any of these things created the universe, created human beings, or created the events occurring in existence. Look, when we say nature, either we mean the essence of things, mountains, stones, trees, grass, streams, rivers. These are called nature. The stars in the sky, galaxies, nebulae, and the Milky Way, all of these are parts of nature. Rain, clouds, droplets, particles within clouds, seeds, plants, and human beings, all of them are nature. Everything we see and do not see is nature. Now when we ask, who created all these things, and someone answers, nature created them, what he is actually saying is this: the tree created the tree, the stone created the stone, the soil created the soil, the river created the river, flowing created flowing, rising created rising, evaporation created evaporation. A person who says, nature created it, is speaking words without knowing what his words actually mean. Speech is extremely important. Words express what is inside a person. Using words that do not reflect what is inside is called madness. When they say, nature, either they mean things themselves, in which case, nature created it, means that things created themselves, or they mean laws. For example, there is the law of gravity in the universe. Bodies attract one another based on mass, distance, and motion. This is a law. In the plant world, when seeds find suitable soil and conditions, they sprout, grow, rise, and develop. This too is a law. Now, if someone who says, nature created it, means that laws created things, then look at what this implies. It would be like saying, who created the engine? The mechanical laws did. Pressing the clutch, changing gears, pressing the gas pedal, the spark plug firing, these are laws. Saying, these laws created the engine, is laughable. Who created water, the sea, air, and vapor? Did the law of evaporation create them, and then the law of gravity? Then who created gravity? And who created the earth? Gravity cannot be conceived without the earth. So they will have to attribute these things to something else as well. In my view, all of this is merely an expression of not thinking. If my politeness allowed, I would call it confusion. In reality, laws depend on things. You cannot think of gravity without bodies, without spheres, without relationships between them. You cannot think of the law of growth in a seed when there is no seed or no suitable environment. Laws only find reflection within the essence of things. You need an object in order to see light, something for light to strike. When you remove things entirely, you can no longer even conceive of laws. If there is another alternative explanation in this matter, I do not know it. When we analyze what is meant by nature, we clearly see this: either it refers to the essence of things, or to laws dependent on things. Neither the essence of things can create itself, nor can laws create things, and you can see this clearly. If ideas are logical, the path of reason is one and leads consistently in a single direction. But if ideas lack logic, then there is no possibility of understanding them or explaining them.